Hey guys, and welcome back to FATBOSS TV. Today we're looking at the third boss in the Eternal Palace with the Radiance of Azshara encounter.
This two-phase fight takes place on a massive ring-shaped platform. Mechanically, the fight is very similar to Wrath of Azshara, the boss from the Legion 5-man Eye of Azshara. The main difference here is that you've got to manage knockback mechanics, as the waters surrounding the platform deal massive ticking damage, killing you pretty quickly if you fail. Let's start off by explaining Phase 1.
So for everyone to watch out for is the tornadoes. These spawn throughout this phase very frequently and are the most annoying thing in the encounter to deal with. The initial spawn location deals damage if you're stood within it, and a few seconds later the tornado will spiral out from that location until it despawns a little while later. Because of the way these move away from where they spawn, you can easily counter them by waiting for them to spiral away and then move into their initial spawn location. The only issue is that they spawn so frequently that you'll have to move almost constantly to pull it off, especially if you stack the entire raid, which might work for some classes, but for casters it's not great. You can however spread around the entire platform to generally spread the tornadoes out, and this is what we did for the most part, and it seemed to work well. You do need to be careful not to spread too far from the raid because of two other mechanics. First is Unshackled Power. This is an unavoidable burst of damage to the entire raid, and this happens a lot, and is the main source of incoming damage that healers need to deal with. Second is Arcane Bomb. This debuff is applied to 3 members of your raid. When it times out, it will deal a burst of damage to all players in the targeting circle, stunning them for 6 seconds. This is dispellable, and when it is dispelled, it will just remain in its location, which if dispelled in a really poor place, can completely cut people off. So ideally when the debuffs come out, the debuff players should move towards the back of the platform or any area that isn't overly populated and then be dispelled. Lastly to mention for this phase is the tank debuff Tide Fist. This is a 2-second cast that deals a burst of physical damage and increases your physical damage taken by 200% for 20 seconds. So all you need to do is very simple, just taunt off each other after a single stack.
After you've dealt with all of that for so long and the boss reaches 90% mana or so, he'll begin to cast School Trap. These traps create roadblocks on the platform. Moving into one of the circles will destroy it, but it'll also spawn a tornado. Shortly after the traps are spawned and the boss reaches 100% mana, he'll go dormant and take 99% less damage. This is the start of Phase 2. Immediately you're hit with a storm which reduces your vision and deals ever increasing ticking damage. Your goal here is to find the Eye of the Storm and kill the Storm Wraith within it before it becomes too powerful. The ad has multiple set spawn locations, but typically it appears that it will try and spawn as far away from the majority of your raid as it can. When running towards him, you'll want to only remove a single trap per wall. Any more than that and people are likely to get caught out or just blocked further by tornadoes. Once you're in the eye, you'll no longer take the storm damage, but your vision will still be limited. The Wraith needs to be interrupted when his focus power is cast. This simply just increases his damage by 500% if it goes through. Aside that, he'll cast Gale Buffet. This deals a burst of damage and knocks back your entire raid. Ideally you'll want to position yourself so you're not knocked into the waters around the platform. If you move the ad to one side of the storm and the raid stacks directly behind it, you'll remain within the eye while being knocked back, which prevents you from taking a shitload of damage from the storm. Within the eye there's also Stormlings that will continue to spawn throughout the phase. These will just deal damage to random players and for the most part can just be ignored and cleaved down. Arcane Bombs will continue to spawn throughout Phase 2. You'll want to dispel these around the edges of the storm, ideally in locations where players are not going to be knocked into. Once the Storm Wraith is dead, the boss will re-enter Phase 1 again, and from there the fight just simply repeats, and that wraps up the boss. But with all of our boss previews, what do we think?
Yeah, it's not a terrible encounter, it's very simple, and for the most part the mechanics are pretty self-explanatory, which works well on a boss that's early in the instance. Some people have commented on the fight saying that it's a bit lazy for Blizzard to copy and paste a 5-man boss, which I can understand, but you know, you could say that it's like a nice little callback, or maybe you've just expanding upon that boss, because a lot of things are the same, right? You've got the tornadoes, you've got the arcane bombs, which in all fairness, strangely enough, the arcane bombs in the 5-man were way easier to read than the arcane bombs in the raid, because the raid has this weird little rune system as it like kind of ticks up, and you have to look at it to know when it's going to explode, whereas the one from the 5-man is just a falling bomb. It's very obvious how it works.
Yeah.
But going on to this version of the fight, there are a couple of aspects of the fight that are questionable. Some of the school trap walls had gaps where your character could just kind of move straight through them. It seemed like on the normal mode test, which we did very, very recently, they kind of fixed that a little bit, not entirely sure, but if you can just get around it without having to deal with the mechanic at all, that seems like why is the mechanic there in the first place? Yep. So hopefully they fix that up. And secondly is the tornadoes. This entire fight pretty much, apart from the Phase 2, is just tornadoes, tornadoes, tornadoes. It's all you have to focus on. It honestly feels that the fight might be improved if they maybe reduce the amount of tornadoes that spawned, but maybe gave you one other thing to deal with. Like, you remember in the 5-man where you had to stack up and spread the damage of that ability?
Yep.
Maybe they could add that back. Basically,
that's a really good point.
why
Why isn't that there?
I don't know. Why didn't they just give us the 5-man version of the fight? Because honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually prefer the 5-man version of the fight over this one. You know, you've got the whole idea where you slowly move around the actual platform, making use of the entire space. On this, you sit on one side and deal with the tornadoes. You just dodge, dodge, dodge. And if you're in a super large raid size, you can just split it in two. Half the raid on one side and the other raid on the other. And then on average, you're less likely to get more tornadoes. But yeah, it feels like there's less things going on in this raid version of a boss than there was in the 5-man. And I'm not even talking about like 5-man Mythic 20 or anything like that. Just 5-man, you know, standard Mythic Plus. It feels like this boss hasn't got that much more going on.
I can see that.
And even on Mythic, you know, the Mythic change is nice. I do actually like it. It kind of forces that split group strategy because 2 Eyes of the Storm instead of 1.
And
so
2 Wraiths.
Yeah, so 2 Wraiths. So you have to split the raid in half and you have to kill them within a certain time limit of one another. Otherwise, the other team just gets eaten up by the storm. That's quite a cool idea because then you've got to try and min-max your damage on either side. So that kind of opens it up a little bit more. But Phase 1 sucks. Phase 1 needs something else because I'm sick and tired of tornadoes. I shouldn't have played the caster on it, in all fairness. That's probably why I hate it. Melee don't give a fuck. They like this fight. They don't care. But as a caster, oh my god, it's so painful.
I think that's the first time we've done feedback and changed our mind halfway through.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. It's just after thinking about it, there's just too many tornadoes.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.
Oh,
if you want to keep up to date on this boss and be ready for when this boss hits live servers, then check out our stuff over on Wowhead. You can find a link for that in the description. And if you did enjoy this preview, show us some love, give us a like, and we will see you all in our next video.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Less tornadoes.